Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Gooey's Dungeon Dive, the show where I, Gooey, take a look at and rank every dungeon in the Zelda series. We're doing this chronologically, so we're going to start with The Legend of Zelda on NES, and we're going to be talking today about level 1, the Eagle, which I think for starters is like a really cool name and look of the dungeon. I don't know, when I see the map and the layout of this, and it's, you know, sort of looks like an eagle, I just think it's cool, it's striking. So I don't know, I always think that's just great for starters. So I don't know, with this dungeon, it's a solid opening dungeon for the very first game in the series. It lays the groundwork that the Zelda series builds upon, and you know, even for a very old and kind of tough game, I think this is a good intro. It's a good intro dungeon. It's not too complicated to explore. It offers some flexibility, like with the keys and where you can spend it, especially if you know some of the tricks, which you know you might not your first time, but that's kind of what's cool about it. Is, you know, later on you could do stuff like if you immediately leave the dungeon and come back in, the first door there will be unlocked, and there's some like bombable walls that let you save keys, which is going to be a factor in this game, because keys you can spend in any dungeon. It's kind of open and all over the place, you know, and it carries throughout the dungeons with the keys, which I think is actually kind of neat. You know, there's some flaws there, but I do love like the open nature of this game, and this, you know, this dungeon establishes that. So in terms of enemies, you know, it's a good lays the groundwork of some nice, simple, and classic enemies. We've got, you know, your Stalfos, your Keese, you got the little gel blobs and like, you know, blade traps, kind of that kind of stuff is, I think of, it's more like classic fantasy, which is kind of what the original, you know, Legend of Zelda is aiming at a little bit more. But then you've got, I feel like these are a bit more unique to the Legend of Zelda. You've got like the Wall Masters, but then also the Goria, which I think is kind of cool. It's kind of establishing, like, to me, the more unique nature of Zelda as a game, as opposed to being just like pure classic fantasy, or these sort of like, I don't know what they are, dogs or whatever, that throw boomerangs, which is kind of a goofy item for a, you know, what you would normally see from like a more medieval fantasy thing. But I think that's cool, and I think the weapon of the boomerang is a cool item. You know, it's become an iconic Zelda item, and I think this is one of the best games for it. It's just a really good, you know, secondary item to have. It kills, you know, weaker enemies like the Keese and the gels and Zols, I think it kills, but and then it's good for, you know, stunning some other enemies. It's a good, you know, backup to the sword to have on hand. One negative I would say about the dungeon is the bow as an item, as a dungeon item. I just think it's weird that you get it, and if you haven't bought arrows, you can't really use it. I don't know, it's not that big of a deal because you also get the boomerang, but it's just kind of goofy. Thinking about it now, you know, it makes sense with future games that you just kind of can use the bow when you get it, for the most part. Not a big negative necessarily. You know, going along with the secrets, I should have mentioned, it also has something that carries on throughout the game, which is having the old men show up sometimes in the dungeon and sometimes give you good hints, sometimes give you cryptic hints, or sometimes sell you things. This one's iconic, where you just meet the old man and he tells you Eastmost Peninsula is the secret, which has been interpreted for a couple different things. Maybe it's a hint at where Aquamentus is in the dungeon, which, you know, I don't know why you would need that if you have the map and compass, but whatever. Maybe it's just there in case, or maybe it's referring to some secrets in the overworld. I don't know. I've seen a lot of interpretation about that, but I don't know. It's become such a kind of a classic Zelda line alongside some of the other stuff in this game that I don't know, I kind of like it. For the boss, Aquamentus, I think it's a really cool looking boss, and I don't know, it's iconic to me. It's a boss that I wish, you know, would come back more in Zelda. You know, it's very simple, but I think Aquamentus is a good challenge for a new player to the game. It gives you, you know, some projectiles to dodge, and if you go there, like I'm sure a lot of people do, like without the heart pieces, which, you know, are hard to find without a guide, and without the powered up sword, it's actually fairly tough. And I think it teaches you, you know, how to dodge and get your strikes in early on. Not too tough, especially if you're powered up. It's kind of a joke, but I think for a new player, just a good tutorial. So overall, I think this is a great dungeon. So that's, you know, that's how the show's going to be. I'm just going to give you kind of my, you know, impressions of a dungeon, and then for future episodes, we're going to be ranking it. So I'll have a list here, and I'll just kind of be putting it where I feel. It's kind of my own personal ranking here. So let me know what you think about the discussion here. Let me know what you think about level 1. We're going in chronological order, so obviously the next episode is going to be about level 2 in The Legend of Zelda. So yeah, share your thoughts and comment below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and thanks for watching.